Hello, everyone, and welcome to Always Tell Me the Odds, a Star Wars Unlimited podcasts. I am Marcus, and with me today is Magnus, as always. Hello, Magnus.
Hello, hello.
And also, today we have a third person. We have a guest here. Hello, Pontus.
Hello.
How are you doing
Thank you
today?
for inviting me. This is going to be fun. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, good to hear. It's a Monday, as usual when we record. We had to hurry you a little bit, Pontus, from work to make this.
It's fine.
Yeah, 3 busy schedules needed to be merged together.
Yeah, I was working from home, so I mean, I can just keep working
right.
after it if I need to.
That's good. But it's good to have you on. Thank you for taking your time to come here and talk a little bit with us.
Yeah, I love talking nerd stuff with nerds, so that's perfect.
It is a podcast with nerds for nerds, so it's good.
Yes.
Yeah. And today we are going to talk, because you are a judge in Star Wars Unlimited, so we are going to talk about judge stuff today. But can you start, because the listeners might not know who you are, so can you start telling a little bit, who are you?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Pontus. I'm from Västerås, Sweden, where I'm like the local judge guy. I'm one of the few level 1 judges in Sweden right now. Hopefully we get more and more. But I was the judge at the PQ in Stockholm, and I will be the head judge at the upcoming one as well. I play a lot of Star Wars Unlimited as well, of course. Yeah, I'm known for a little bit like jokingly for playing Hunter, not because it's necessarily the best, but because it's much better than people say he is.
Oh, interesting. All right.
So yeah, that's a little bit.
Seems like you have the same fondness for the not that meta decks like me. Both me and Marcus likes to be like the underdog decks. Is quite fun to play, actually.
Yes, I love making off meta decks that can meet the meta. That's definitely my jam. Yeah,
I love that.
And as you say, it's super fun when you can like change people's minds about a leader that everyone thinks is super bad, but as you said, he's not as bad as people think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's super fun.
You just have to find the right way to build it around the leader.
Yeah.
So
I could talk about Hunter forever, so I'm almost starting, but that's not why we're here.
Nice.
Maybe we should have an episode with only Hunter and get you back here.
I would down for that for sure.
Yeah. So we always start a little bit what you always been up to in the last week when it comes to Star Wars Unlimited. So should we start with you, Pontus? What have you been doing last week with Star Wars Unlimited? Have you been playing something fun or built a deck or something like that?
Yeah, I've been toying around with Lando, the new from Set 4 actually. So and that's been a lot of fun. He is another one that's I feel like he's a little bit of an underdog or like off meta, but has a lot of potential. So I tried that. I've been trying a couple of different SKUs, one with yellow and one with blue.
Okay.
And a lot of turn 1 drops, so you can get his hero power going.
Can you?
And just as a reminder for those that don't know, so Lando's ability is that he can pay 1 and exhaust, and then you play a unit from your hand. And after that, if you have units in both arenas, so including the one you just played, then you get to put a shield on any of your units.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I play a lot of turn 1 plays. So I can play something on turn 1 in space, for example, and then turn 2 I can play another cheap thing, so I get a shield.
Oh, yeah. I always... when I saw that leader first, I was like, this is impossible to play, because I often play in one of either the space or the ground. And since I'm so new, I'm like, I don't know how I would get that to work. But I bet you can. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's real fun. You really say something important there about him. You have to really balance the 2 arenas.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and make sure you have to keep it in mind when you're resourcing and stuff like that. So it's a little bit tricky, but really fun.
Yeah, I mean, decks that have that kind of interaction is usually fun to play, because as you said, you need to think about it the whole game. So you resource the right cards, and of course, you need to build your deck so you have not as many, but you have both lanes, of course. But then also, as you said, every turn you need to think, okay, so, and you don't have to trigger him every turn, but the more the merrier, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why. I mean, right now I'm in this like I'm trying to think like how often should I use him? So I use him as much as I can. That's why the deck looks like that.
Yeah.
But it's probably I think when the deck is like finished, so to speak, you probably don't need to think you should use it every turn, which is like the current goal, basically.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to see it in the meta or at some PQ or something.
Probably not, but
well, who knows? So Magnus, what have you been up to last week?
I went to locals as usual on Tuesday. Last Tuesday, we're testing decks. I'm going to Lille, France, in a couple of weeks. So we're testing decks for that. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to play. So that's I'm starting to get a bit stressed about that. I really would like to have a good deck to play there. So we'll keep on trying to test new decks.
I am not surprised because you never know what deck you're going to play in the upcoming tournament.
Yeah, I have. It's the hardest part about the game, but it's also the fun part to building up to a tournament, choosing decks and trying decks and all of that. I love the the build up for tournaments.
It's extra hard now though with the meta shifting suddenly. So.
And completely new meta doesn't help, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
And I actually just this Saturday I got the privilege to help the Nordic Takedown guys out to cast their stream. They streamed the Cantina Brawl 3 from Manatorsk in Skövde. So I helped out for the Swiss rounds because all of the Takedown guys did play in the tournament. So they got help from me and Alan. Alan, you might know from seeing on the stream for the PQ in Norway. Yeah. He got second place with his OB deck.
Yeah,
so he has his invite for the Galactic also then.
Yeah, he got that because
that's interesting.
Yeah, but he told me that because Adam, who won the tournament, already had his, so he got it. So he really wants to go, but he's not really sure how to manage. I mean, America is not the easiest to get to right now, maybe, with
true.
What's happening in the world, but we'll see.
True.
Yeah. So that was really fun.
Yep.
I'd love to do that again. I think it's still up on YouTube, so if people are interested, go and watch. We got a lot of fun games on stream.
Yeah.
I do know that there was a Lando in the tournament actually. However, we didn't get to see him on a stream, and I don't think he did that well in the tournament. But that was a bit unfortunate. It would have been fun to have that on stream.
Just wait for Pontus deck.
Yeah,
just wait for it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So, Marcus, what have you been doing in Star Wars?
Yeah, so I actually I took up a new deck to try out, and it is Alan's fault because, as you know, I like Heroism and I like blue decks. So I took the Obi-Wan deck, but I got super smashed by an Obi-Wan deck. I think it was from a guy from Västerås actually when we were playing Malmö in the SWU Malmö open qualifiers. It might not have been Västerås. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. I don't think there's any.
No, it's probably not Västerås then. I don't remember right thing then. But anyway,
I mean, to be fair, we are like 10 people or something, and some might be missing someone that's actually trying Obi-Wan. I'm not sure.
But it was an Obi-Wan, and I got absolutely smashed. So I was like, oh my god, I need this deck. So I asked him for it, and I got it, and I have modified it quite a lot because so it fits meat better. But I tried that out last Thursday on our locals, and we had a lot of fun. Now when Django is away, so then we had a lot of fun because all of us had 3 to 4 decks with us, and we just switched up and played against each other, and we played Sabine, and we tried Obi-Wan, and we played Darth Vader, and so on. So it was a lot of fun. I played a lot of decks that I usually meet as an opponent, so I could try them out. And so I learned a lot on that Thursday, and I had a lot of fun. And I think my Obi-Wan actually performed fairly well. I did better with my Obi-Wan than I did with my Queenland Tarkin Town for some reason. But so it was a lot of fun. And also my my partner is here now. She lives in Austria, so we don't meet each other too often. But when she came here, she was like, "Oh, let's play Star Wars," because she loves the Darth Vader starter deck from Sparkle Rebellion. So we have been playing that. But she took my Obi-Wan deck now, so I have to face it all the time. But yeah, so I've been playing quite a lot actually, decks, and trying out Obi-Wan quite a lot, and so I've had fun with that. So that's a little bit what I have been doing for sure.
And I guess we should, of course, mention that we did talk about the upcoming ban stream last week, and I just to like follow up on what we said last week, that we both of us wanted something to happen, and FFG did deliver. They actually did a lot more than I thought they would. They banned they suspended both Django, Triple Dark Raid, and DJ.
Yeah.
So I really like that they have the guts, or like they are willing to try out and really shake up the meta like this. I think that's good when they're not afraid of doing something to change the game.
It was so needed though. So.
Yeah. Especially Django, but it was really nice that they saw that, okay, if we remove Django, maybe DJ and Triple Dark Raid still will be a problem. So why not suspend them all? And as they said, suspension is not indefinite. It can change next month or when next set drops, or and any time they want. And I also really liked that they said that they don't want to have a specific date each month or each like 3 months when they do these things. They want to do them when they're needed. And that's really good, because some games have like quarterly dates when they change suspensions and stuff, and that can be really really bad for the game if something new drops, and that date unfortunately is like 2-3 months from that date. Can be
3 months of a bad meta.
Super bad meta for 3 months, just because they need to wait. So I really like how they so far I'm all aboard the Fantasy Flight
that's
train
good.
on this one.
That's good.
So it's good to say.
I must it strikes me, have you talked about, because it's a term not necessarily everybody knows, like the meta. I mean, I know, and we all know, it seems, but this is something you talked about on the podcast.
We have brought it up, and
because
we did actually last week, just last week.
That is one of those terms that when I came in, everybody was talking about the meta. I was like, "What is the meta?" I was like, "I don't know what that is." So, but but I think that is a good segue into the judge thing, actually, because that is actually why you are here, Pontus. So I will just start to say this. When you said I'm a level 1 judge, and when you said that to me the first time when we start writing to each other, I was like, what is that? What does that mean? But so can you explain to me and all the people who are new to this, but also the people who are not new to this, but maybe don't know how the judge structure works, or what is it to be a judge in Star Wars Unlimited? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Certainly, yeah. Let's start like what a judge actually is, because it's not necessarily clear to everyone. So the one thing I want to start off with, which is important and is a lot of the time misunderstood, is that we judges are not employees of Fantasy Flight Game or Cascade Games that runs the program, or Asmodee or anything. We're just like community members that know the rules and like understand policy and like how to run events and make sure that they're fair and everything is running smoothly. That's like the entire goal of having judges, basically. So making sure that everybody's having fun, basically, and that includes the judge part, where the name comes from, so to speak. So making judgment when people are doing things that might be outside the rules. That's like where the name comes from, but it's just one part of it, and not the thing that we necessarily do the most, probably, hopefully, not the thing we do the most, but making sure that people are having fun and being able to play the game and stuff like that.
I think that's a very valid and very good point to start out with, that you're community members that want everybody to have a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's-
I often see it like a neutral part that can help out in the game when when uh, when you have a question about how rules work, because in all card games it feels like the rules are quite simple, but when you get to certain situations, it's
exactly.
really hard to just like, oh shit, how
Yeah.
does this interaction work? And a judge is like a neutral part that can come in, help out both players, and just tell them how they're supposed to play the game.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think it's an important thing just being neutral, and it can sometimes be hard as well being neutral. But yeah, that's some fair points.
So how is the judge system like? How does that work in Star Wars Unlimited?
Yeah, so in Star Wars Unlimited, the judge program is run by Cascade Games. And if you're interested, you can go to nexus.cascadegames.com to find out more about this if you want to be a judge and stuff like that. So there's currently only, you can either be a judge apprentice, which isn't actually in like an official judge level. It's just like for people that are interested and like, yeah, I want to look more into judging and stuff like that. So it's not like one of their certifications, so to speak, quote unquote. But if you want to be start looking into it, it's a good starting point. You get access to some Discord stuff and stuff like that. And then the goal of the program is to have 5 levels of judge, where level 1 is like local judges basically, and 2 is area judge, 3 is regional judge, 4 is large event expert. I'm reading here, and 5 is global leaders. And currently, the only level that's available is level 1, like local judge. So it's the level 2 is coming this year, I believe, but it can't be that yet.
Yeah, we usually say that a lot on this podcast, that we can't forget enough times that Star Wars is still a very young game. We're just 1 year old right now, and we're still in the
even younger.
Even younger, yeah. Of course, and it's gonna take a while for them to set it up and get it just how they want it. But good to know that they're supposed to be in the future 5 levels. That's a lot more than I thought. Actually, just on top of my head, I would have guessed maybe 3 levels of judges, but good to know.
Yeah. I think they aimed for 5 to have more more distinction between them, because in other systems I know they only have like 2 or 3 or something like that, but they felt like the granularity is like they wanted that. That's the feeling. And
so how do you become a level 1 judge, or even a apprentice? Is it just signing up, or do you have to take a test? Or
for apprentice you just go to nexus.cascadegames.com and take a 20-question exam, and if you get, I think it's like 80%, something like that, then you become an apprentice. To become a level 1 judge is a little bit more complicated, because you need to get what's called recommendation from a tournament organizer, or in future also level 2 judges or level 3 judges, I don't remember. But right now it's only tournament organizers that can give those recommendations. And once you have that recommendation, you can then get access to a different exam, and where the apprentice exam only covers the rules. With the level 1 exam, you also do some stuff. There's also questions on like policy and logistics and stuff like that. And the questions are a little bit tougher, but not the rules questions are about the same, I'd say. But yeah, and once you pass that, then you're a level 1 judge, basically.
So tournament organizer does like a local game store count as a tournament organizer in this case? So you can talk to your if you want to have a local judge and you don't have that in your city, just talk to one of the LGSs and see if they can back you as a judge then. Yeah,
I believe if I remember correctly, any store that has had a showdown or that will have a showdown for the current sets will be like one of the official tournament organizers in the system, and they should have gotten an email. And if they haven't, they can probably set it up and contact their what's it called, where they get their stuff from. I forget.
Like their so Asmodee Nordics probably in where we live in Sweden. So,
exactly.
Okay,
and
so
then
that's
once they have access to that, they should be able to do that. But you should also, of course, but I mean, every store has their own system for how that works. But they should, of course, know that with some level of knowledge, they should know that they feel like you could be a good judge. So I've seen you in action a little bit at least.
All right,
that's good to know. But it's feels like a good thing that in the future, like higher level judges can recommend lower level judges as well. Then, probably a good thing.
So can you tell me what you as a judge, when there is a tournament coming up or a competition coming up, what are your how is your preparation? And also because I've seen that sometimes there's this is the head judge, this is the floor judge, and I was like, okay. It's I don't know what that is. All right, I kind of know what it is, but I don't know what the difference between them are. And so what are how do you prepare before going to a tournament being a judge, and what are those different ones?
Sure. So let's start with the head judge versus floor judge to get that out of the way, so to speak. So every tournament, every official tournament has to have a head judge, and you can have optionally floor judges. And a lot of the times the head judge is also functioning as a floor judge. And the floor judges, the judges that are, or floor judges are the judges that are out on the floor and taking care of the people answering questions and taking care of if there's a dispute or rules questions and stuff like that. And the head judge is the person that's responsible for all of the rules, questions, and the disputes in the event. If you talk to a floor judge and you feel like no, this has to be wrong, then you can ask to speak with the head judge, and that's always something you have the right to do. And the head judge is also the one that's responsible for handing out disqualifications if that's needed, which hopefully shouldn't be needed, but sometimes things happen. It's as long as you're not, basically, as long as you're not cheating, as long as you're not being very, very rude, you won't be disqualified, basically.
Yeah. Or, I mean, you have a point system, right? So if you're very sloppy with your play, a lot of times, but that you have to be doing it in every game. Then eventually you could get a disqualification, but I guess basically, that's quite rare.
Yeah, I can just talk a little bit quickly about that, not get into details. But there's a system where if you make small errors, you get points, or the larger the error is, the more points you get. And if you get 10 points, you're disqualified. So other than that, they don't have any effects. There's no drawback to these points other than make sure you don't get 10 of them, basically. And it's the same thing. It can also be good to know that if you do get some kind of what's it called, punishment, whatever it is, maybe game loss, a match loss, or a disqualification, it also doesn't go in any permanent record or anything, except that disqualifications can do that depending on how bad it is. But that's not up to the judge. That's up to FFG. So we write a report and stuff like that. And you also, if you do get disqualified, hopefully no one does, but then you also have the right to make your point to FFG, so they know. If you think this was really bad, then you can write a letter, short little letter and stuff like that.
So the head judge is the one who runs the show, so to say, on a tournament. It's the word of the head judge is what goes. There's what they say, that goes. All right.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Once you have gotten a ruling from the head judge, that's it. Yeah. There's nowhere above that you can go. So even the tournament organizer, in theory, if they could put a new judge, but that doesn't happen. It's just too much of a hassle. So once the head judge has said this is how we're going to do it, then the judgment is this, then that's final.
All right.
So no point in trying after that, really.
And I just want to add to that discussion as well. As you said, when any judge comes up to your table, if you call the judge and you don't agree with that judge, Paul. I mean, because especially now in the beginning, a lot of the floor judges are quite new to judging. They may not even be level 1 judges. So sometimes they think they make a call that's maybe not correct. Don't be it's the same way you shouldn't be afraid of calling a judge. You shouldn't be afraid of just saying, I would like to take this to the next level of judge because I'm quite sure this is not how the game works.
Yeah.
It's not being rude or anything like that. So some people feel bad when they say, and I want to get that away from the game. It's like, it's no problem. Just tell the judge, I would like to take that up with the head judge. If that's okay, can you call him over? And that's not a problem.
That's not a problem.
You're right. Yeah.
The same thing, a thing I've thought about throughout this little podcast. But another thing I think it's important that you touched on is that don't be afraid to call the judges for anything you need. Like, we're there to help run the tournaments, whatever that may be. So, like, we will answer questions about rules if you need that. We can clarify things, even the small things. Like, if you're new, don't be afraid to call a judge. Like, if it becomes a problem, because it could become a problem, then you will be informed about that. But usually that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You have to go really far. Like, if you're constantly asking about how does this card work and stuff like that, then you probably shouldn't be at the tournament. But like, other than that, no problem at all. Ask for about anything you need.
That is
I think that's a good point to actually bring up a lot. We try to tell that to new players on this podcast a lot. Don't be afraid to call a judge.
Yeah. It's
I played.
It's something we say a lot of times, and I as a new player, I never played TCGs at all before, so this whole thing is like super new to me. But we say that a lot. Don't hesitate to call a judge, and I know Magnus says that a lot to me when we are playing and just talking, him and me, and I am still feeling a little bit not uncomfortable, but it's like, do I really need to do that? I was like, but so it's really good to hear from you also, Pontus, that you say that we are here for the players, and don't never hesitate to do that because it's important. So
just,
and I think
the one part of the problem is that the word judge sounds like it's like, we're the judge is at the podium in the court. Like, no, it's not like that. Like, we're more like the main point of it, the way I see it, and is that we're there to help the event run smoothly and for people to have fun. So, like, yes, we do also deal with the rules questions and like punishments if that's needed, but that's just a small part of it. It's and we're paid to be there to help people. So, like, that's the job basically.
Yeah. And I mean,
you seem like a good guy. Played a lot of I played a lot of miniatures wargaming as well in my life. I don't know how it's nowadays. It was a few years since I played, but in that gaming community, it was very rare to call the judge at tournaments. So I think that's kind of where my hesitation comes from, because that was, you usually only call a judge if someone really did like cheat or went against the rules a lot, or like that. Usually when you called a judge in those kind of games, it was a big deal. But in TCGs, it's not at all. It's just, if you have a small like rules questions, just call the judge and he'll help you.
There's also two sides to this as well. And the one thing is like, so we're there to help, like, but we're also there to make sure people aren't cheating. So even if someone is doing something, if something happens, like someone accidentally looked at a card, like, and you might think like, it's no big deal, just put it back, you're drawing it next turn or whatever. You should still call a judge about that, because they might, in most of the cases, most people are good players, like nice players, and aren't trying to cheat. But if we aren't told, we can't know that. So it's also, so even for like the small things, it could be a good idea to just inform the judges. And there is even a new thing with set 4 that they introduced, which is a 0-point warning. So like, it's only for tracking. So like, if there's a small thing, like maybe a card was dropped on the floor, but no one saw anything or whatever. Like, yeah, it shouldn't happen. So like, but we want to track it because if it keeps happening, then there's a problem.
Oh yeah. And it's also it's interesting because we had in the tournament we had in Malmö, the SWU Malmö Open Qualifiers, there was a British guy called Spessy that he was shortly on in the podcast some episodes ago, and he is new to the game. He's been playing a lot of Lorcana, but he did that. He called the judge a number of times because he did something wrong. He was like, "Oh my God, I did something wrong here." So he just told his opponent that I did something wrong here. I will call the judge. So he called the judge on himself and said that this is what's happening, and he got the points on himself. But he said it's better to do that so they know, and I'm being open and honest about it. So, and I really like him saying that because it also made me think that it's like, yeah, that is how I should do it, because he's a new to Star Wars, but not new to TCGs, and he's really using it in that way. So I think that's a good thing. But
I think that's also good. Yeah, it shows that you're you're trying your best to be doing the right thing, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if you go back to the tournament, so I have a little bit better understanding now what a head judge is. There's now floor judge is. So the floor judge is the one that I'm talking to when I'm sitting there playing, and the head judge is the one that runs the whole, like that keeps it together, so to say. So, but you as a judge,
usually there will be a floor judge as well. Though,
yeah, of course, yeah. So I might talk to them too. Yeah. So, but when you are going into a tournament as a judge, a head judge, then, so how do you prepare for that, and what are your like the most important things for you to prepare and to be aware of when you go into a tournament?
That's a good question. I mean, it depends on the size of the tournaments and stuff like that. And I should clarify that I'm also pretty new to this. So I've only been head judge at small, like the biggest is 24 people. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, you have so I do most of the things the way I've been working. I do it mostly like on the spot, so to speak, when I get there. When it gets to bigger tournaments, you have to make sure that you know all the information, like how many rounds you're running, top 4, not top 8, whatever. And like the price structure. So if people have questions, so that's like being able to answer all of the questions about the events. That's like the biggest thing. Making sure you bring all the things that you need to be able to run the events. So maybe it could be good, for example, to bring like tablets so you can do stuff in Melee, which is the official software for it. And if you need to make some edits, instead of going back to like the computer, you can. Yeah, that could be a good idea. Something to write on and something to write with, stuff like that. Making things. Otherwise, it's just the normal things like making sure you have stuff to drink, like all the players should be doing as well.
Yeah.
So it's along those lines, I'd say.
All right. So is it the head judge? Are they also responsible for the pairings and putting like the melee works, or is that organized for the tournament?
Yeah, like that would be the judge, unless you have the tournament organizer can appoint someone as a scorekeeper. Then that person would be responsible for more of that stuff. I would assume. I'm not sure who the pairings. I guess maybe it's great. It's both in a way. It's like who's dealing with melee. Usually it's gonna be the head judge or the judges together, but you can have a scorekeeper. But yeah. So
I guess that's maybe in very large tournaments you have multiple people helping out with different stuff, I guess.
Exactly. In the big 400 people tournaments, they definitely had a scorekeeper, for example.
Yeah.
Or more than one, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Poor head judge. Otherwise, need to do everything on their own.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
So how does the point like if you go to someone who made a mistake and you give them a point for making that mistake, how do you keep track of that? Do you have like a official tracking system, or do you just write it down on a piece of paper, or how do you do that?
The official tracking system is Melee, so we put everything in Melee. So we just input what kind of fraction it was and how many points they got, and it's tracked in there.
And can I see that myself, or is that like hidden?
No. Well, I mean, I guess maybe you can see your own. I'm not sure actually. I'm not entirely sure if you can see your own. You should probably be able to see your own points, I guess. I'm not sure if you can see that either, actually. So yeah, so that's unfortunately the answer for that. I'm not sure.
That's okay.
Yeah,
You can
it
definitely not
hasn't
see other people's notes and stuff like that. I don't think you can see other people's points either. That's my guess. I mean,
it makes sense.
Penalty points.
Yeah. It doesn't. It would actually could be a good thing if you could see your own points.
Yeah.
But then again, if you get points, you can always ask the judges if you're uncertain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, like you said, you can get points for like doing something not intentional, but it's still not you can't. It's against the rules. Like I've called a judge, not in this game, but played Blood of Flesh and Blood before, and in a big tournament, I accidentally draw one card too many, so I had to call a judge on myself for that, and I got a point for that, or I don't know how they, but so it could be good to.
So I actually have a concrete tip on that specifically, because that's one of the things that's easy to do by mistake and happens not necessarily all the time, but can happen pretty easily. So like one of the main points, if that happens, is to make sure you know the order. Don't rearrange them, and make sure you keep them in that order, because like the standard ruling is that if the order is known, then you take the card. How is it? I actually don't remember the details now that I think about it. I think it is that you do the cards you shouldn't have drawn, so to speak. If let's say you draw 3 cards instead of 2, then the card that's the bottom of those 3 is shuffled into the random part of the deck. So if so if you know certain parts of the deck, then you will separate that and shuffle it into the rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
And then you would get. I think you get 1 point for that. I'm not sure, but it should be 1 point. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Could be 2, but
if that's if that's the case, it's more. It's not as hard in this game as it was in Flesh and Blood, because when I accidentally did that in the Flesh and Blood, my opponent got to choose a card from my hand. That's
what happens if the order isn't known by both players. So if as long as both players can say that he didn't rearrange them, they're in the right order, then you do what I said. But if both players don't agree, or you're not sure, then you show the cards, and your opponent gets to pick one that you shuffle in.
That is rough.
That's quite a rough. But then again, you drew one card too many, so
for sure.
It's your own fault. But
it's like
and as of course, if you don't know, there's no way to be certain which card was.
Yeah, I should
the
also
one that you draw too many. Yeah,
I realized something I should say just to be clear. That I might be saying things wrong.
Yeah.
I know that it's something like what I'm saying, but if your judge at the local event says something else, they probably know better, because they checked it to make sure they did it right.
And that's fine. You're sitting here on the spot getting questions, so that's totally fine.
And no judge knows everything as well. Even in the tournaments, judges will check things. Like the main thing is that you know the basics, the gist of it, and then if you're unsure, you can just check it. So
that makes sense.
So do you have some more another document, or do you use like the standard competitive rules documents when you
there's
judge?
There's 3 documents. We have the competitive rules, which is the official rules for the game, and then there's also tournament regulations for Star Wars Unlimited, which is more about event rules, like how many rounds are there, like what kind of sleeves are you allowed to play with. There's like a bunch of stuff like that, and like what kind of, I don't remember it. Sometimes this one and the next one is like, I'm not sure what stuff is in which, but and then you also have the FFG what's it called, events regulations or something, which is for all FFG events. FFG is, for those that know, is the people that make the game. So there's on a higher level on like same things that go for all events. So those 3 are the main ones.
So the last one is like sportsmanship stuff and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like trying to just
Yeah, but-
remember. Let's see.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know the names of them, but you and me, Marcus, we went through them when we had our like what to think about when going to a tournament.
Exactly.
We checked them for there are like we wondered, and there are actually rules for like hygiene and stuff like that, even
Right.
in the event rules.
The master events document is what's it called.
Okay, yeah.
Games master event document. Yeah, that's where you have the different types of punishment for different things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like which types of roles there are and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Nice.
It's a lot to know then, not to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you do you have any like specific tips for new players when it comes to judging or like going to a tournament or like what to think about?
Those are two very different things. Or what?
yeah, but when as a I mean like as a judge, is there something you want to like give a tip for new players that they often miss or something like that you wanted them to know before they come to a tournament specifically as a coming from a judge?
Good question. We all I think the important thing is what we covered, where like what the judge is there for. So like don't be afraid to talk to the judge if you're unsure. Like I mean, like, yes, the basics, like, make sure you do know at least, like, the rules decently. If you're going, at least, I mean, to casual events, that doesn't matter. Like, you know what you know. But if you're actually going to, like, for example, a planetary qualifier or something, which is one of the, like, official tournaments, you're expected to know the rules. You're expected to actually know the master event document and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
So, you don't need to know that in detail, but you need to know at least some of it and the basics and like the important parts.
Yeah. I was so nervous when I went to the PQ in Copenhagen because I was so new to it, and I was like, "Oh, do I really know all the rules?" But I knew enough. I knew that. I felt comfortable going there anyway. And
so I can say that it definitely happens that people go to these higher level events and get some kind of punishments only because like they didn't know that it worked differently in this game compared to other games.
Oh, okay.
And they just assume that it worked in one way, not and then like if they just knew, it wouldn't have happened. So
maybe I have it easier there that I don't know any rules as from before either. I just know these rules.
Yeah. Well, actually, now I think about it and talk about the specifics about this. There is one rule that's a little bit different from other games, or more harsh, I guess I should say. And that is that in all FFG games, they have immediate disqualification if you do what's called collusion or bribery.
Oh yeah.
And collusion is if you discuss with your opponents who should win, or you do it in a way that isn't by playing the game. And if you for example, like a hypothetical, like maybe you played 2 games and it's 1-1, and it's like, oh, the time is running out. Okay, well, we can see that you're gonna go onto the top 8 even if you lose this. So why don't you give me the game? And they're like, yeah, okay, let's give the game. If you do that, both players are immediately disqualified. So that's important.
That's very good to say. You should never discuss the outcome of the game.
You're not allowed to come to an outcome of the game in any other way than playing the game. The only kind of exception is that nowadays you're allowed to agree on what's called intentional draw. An intentional draw.
But I guess, is there any fixed rules how you need to do that? Do you need to call a judge before discussing it with your opponent, or can you discuss the intentional draw with your opponent? I'm not sure. Or maybe that's too soon for you to know exactly.
I'm not 100% sure as my answer, but this is like, you should check this though, I guess. Maybe I can just check it myself real quick, but I think that you're just allowed to suggest it, like, you think we should do an intentional draw? I don't think you're allowed to try to convince them.
And I guess a judge need to be present either way. So
no,
how I would
just input.
You can. Okay.
Or depending if you set it up. You can set
okay.
it up in melee to allow for intentional draw. So
Okay.
that's not necessary.
Okay, that's good.
That's interesting.
I've played some games there where like how you usually do it is that you call a judge and then you say, okay, I'm interested in an intentional draw, and then so you have a judge present while so everyone knows that there is no collusion, or because in the intentional draw, as you said before, you're not allowed to like buy or okay, if we can do an intentional draw and you get my stuff for top 8, or
Exactly,
you're
that's
never
not allowed.
allowed to like put something into the deal. The only thing is
so if that would go into bribery as well. Like if both players engage in the discussion, then both players are disqualified. If one player tries and the other person does just like, no, I'm not talking about that, then the person that tried will not be disqualified. I think it's match loss, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Actually,
that is
be afraid. Be very like. Don't talk about.
I think it's very interesting that you say this, Pontus, and I am glad you do it also, because as a new player, this is I think this is super hard, because I have been to a tournament, a little bit bigger tournament, where I gave in. It was like I knew that I wouldn't win the game. It was 1-1, and the third game I knew I wouldn't win the game, so I was like, okay, you can. I'll give up because the board said that.
That is allowed.
That is
Just
allowed.
To be clear,
Yeah,
that is
allowed. So if I can,
as long as you're doing it on your own vision and your opponent isn't influencing you, then you can concede whenever you want.
But then I had one game where my opponent said that we will not be able to finish this game. Do you want to roll a die? And I had it in my head. Sorry.
That's collusion.
That's exactly because I had it in my head.
Attempted collusion.
I had it back in my head. I was like, I don't know if we're allowed to do this, but I was like, I was so new and so nervous, and they were they were super experienced, and I was like, well, okay. So we did that, and he won, and I was like, okay, fine. So I don't mind, I don't care, but I was like, so now when you said this, I was like.
That's a good example, because if the judge caught wind of that, you both would have been immediately disqualified. For doing that.
And for me, that is super, because I so new I didn't knew that.
This is so they're taking this so seriously that technically it's the same for casual events.
Yeah.
So if you do this at your local store on your casual event where you're just playing on the Friday night, having 10 people in an event or something, if you do the thing where we're not going to be able to finish it, let's roll, and you roll, then technically speaking, you should both be disqualified. That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah. It's very, very good that you say this, because I think this, as a new player, is very hard to, because why I said yes there was because I was being nice. I was like, well, sure, we can do that. I didn't know that. But that is a rule that everybody really should have in their head then.
Yes, exactly. And that's also an interesting point to go back to, talk to your judge. So in that case, you were unsure, you felt like, should we do that? Then you should just ask a judge, we're thinking about rolling this off. Is that allowed? Or can we do that? And then they would say, no, you now lost until your opponent, so basically. Because your opponent, by suggesting that, you know what? I'll just real quick look it up. I know where it says it, so...
It's a good point to take up, because it's such hard rules on this that one specifically. This is a good thing to actually tell your newer players at your locals, your friends, when they enter a tournament. This is really good to know that you're not allowed to speak of this at all, or mention or try to, because you get disqualified right away. So. That's a really good tip to actually.
For new players, that is very important to know that the only way you can a game ends is someone losing, or you saying, I will not win this, I give up.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
You can concede whenever you want, but
So the punishment for attempted collusion is not as bad as I thought. It's actually only escalated penalty, which is 2 points. So that wasn't as bad as I thought. So if someone asks in that example where someone hey, should we just draw this off and someone wins, and if you would have then called the judge hey, can we do this, then that person would have gotten a 2 points penalty, which
Right.
isn't that bad at least.
So
That's quite okay because you haven't colluded yet. It's not collusion yet. It's, as you said, it's
Yeah,
just
that's true.
attempting to for collusion. So,
is it?
but then if you say yes, let's roll off, and you roll off, and someone sees it, then that's collusion, and you both get a disqualification.
Yes,
All
exactly.
right. So is that those 2 points then? So when you get the points, is that like after that match where you got the points, will they be nullified into the next, or you keep that for the whole tournament?
Yep. The penalty points are for the entire tournament.
All
Yeah.
right.
And if you ever get to a total of 10 points, you're disqualified.
All right. Interesting.
Though I should say also, like, that sounds very bad, but it isn't actually. That's pretty generous, because you know, as long as you're trying your best and you know the rules decently, you won't be racking up the points. And if you do, then it's because you ignore the judge, basically.
Yeah.
Because something is going to happen with, like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. And that's the thing you were doing wrong. And like they tell you that, and like, oh, okay, so now you get 2 points, and then you know. So so for you to get to 10 points, you have to be really reckless or not know the rules at all, basically.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, that is also very point you're making here, because we often say it in the podcast that as a new player, go to tournaments, because it's a really, really fun thing to do. You learn a lot, you meet a lot of nice people, and it is just a lot of fun. So don't be afraid of all this talk about points and disqualifications. Like, you will not get there as long as you're a decent human, following what the judge is saying and being open and frank with what you're doing. So that is completely fine. So.
And as Pontus said, don't be discouraged if you in some tournament get some points because you did something wrong.
Yeah,
it can happen to anyone. You accidentally draw a card too much. As long as you're open and like you're a good person about you,
it's a part of the game.
Honest about it. It will happen to anyone, even very experienced players. And I mean, to get to 10 points, as you guys said, you have to actually do these multiple times during a tournament, and that won't happen unless you're trying to do it like if you're doing it on purpose or you're extremely like reckless with your play.
I do have one more example that I just realized for time, because one thing that's like a little harder to notice and maybe not realize sometimes, but because there's a fine distinction between what's called slow play, which is not cheating, and what's it called again? When you stalling.
Stalling. Yeah.
So if your opponent is purposefully playing slowly because they can get a better outcome by doing it, that is stalling, which is a form of cheating, which is also immediate disqualification. Whereas slow play, that's only you're taking a little more time. You're not doing it to gain a benefits, but you're taking a little more time than what you should be doing. It's like you have to, because it impacts the entire game, so you have to actually play at a decent pace. You know, you're allowed to, when it's a hard turn, take your time and think about things. But if you do it for every single thing, then that's slow play. So if you feel like your opponent is doing that, then it's a good idea to talk to a judge about that as well, because that could be someone. I mean, probably not someone cheating. That's very uncommon, but it could be someone that's doing that to actually gain a benefit, and that can be hard to know if we don't see a pattern.
As a strategy,
and also I usually also try it because this can be quite awkward for people to like say to your opponent. I think but saying that, can we play faster? I think we're going too slow. But then don't be afraid to call a judge on it, because
exactly. I think it's important that, yes, of course, you should just talk to your opponent. If you feel like your opponent is playing a bit slow, then like, okay, we're kind of like, we might not finish this if you're playing this slow. Could you please play it faster? But if they still don't do that, then you should call the judge. Yeah. There is a general, like, not a rule, but like a general pointer to what is like reasonable. And it's like that you should on average take about 10 to 15 seconds per decision, basically. They call it action, but it's not action. It's like per decision, more or less. a game action. That could be a trigger or something else. But on average, 10 to 15 means that when it's really difficult, it's okay to take a minute or two to think about things.
Yeah.
But on average, it should be about 10 to 15, or in the casual event, 20 to 25.
Yeah. I think we mentioned that, Magnus, in an episode. I think it was a tournament episode where it sounds short with 10 to 15 seconds, but it is actually quite a long time to make a decision from where you are. But
and it's important also to say that it's, as you said, it's 10 to 15 seconds per decision, because sometimes you can see players that really don't have a decision; they only have one action to do left, and that takes a long time. Then that is probably stalling. But anyways, I usually say not stalling, but that's slow play. Oh, okay, sorry. But then usually call out slow play, because people don't really. Not everyone knows that they're playing slow, and especially if you're playing a competitive tournament. This is a game where going to 3 games can be quite hard on the time we have. So it's good both for you, your opponent, to know that they're actually playing quite slow. If multiple opponents to them actually call the judge during a day, they notice that, okay, maybe I'm a bit too slow.
Or for that matter, I mean, it is you get 2 points for slow play if the judge agrees. That is, of course, if the judge agrees that this is probably slow play, then and if you start racking up the points, then you don't want to do that. So you might be a reason to play a little faster.
So I will.
Just don't worry about it, because usually it doesn't matter.
True.
Just that if you see that pattern, call it out. You know, talk to your opponent first, and then call it to the judge.
It's a good point. So we'll have to wrap it up a little bit, because time is right. It's always like this. We're always saying like, we take like 40 minutes, and then we just start japping about it, and it's like we can sit all day and talk about this. But I have 2 questions for you that if you can shortly answer those. But so first of all, so why did you start playing Star Wars Unlimited, first of all, and why did you become a judge? Because this is the first time you are being a judge in a game.
No, it's not.
See?
So I started playing Star Wars Unlimited because I wanted to get back into TCGs, around the spring last year. I was thinking about getting back into Magic, because I'd moved back to Västerås. I had been living in a different city for a while, so I got back in contact with some people that maybe I should start playing Magic. And then I saw that Star Wars Unlimited was released, and I went to the pre-release, and I was immediately hooked.
Yes.
So that's the short answer. I love TCGs, and when I found Star Wars Unlimited, I was like, this is so much better than Magic, in my opinion. Especially since I didn't need to learn all the cards from the past 10 years I haven't been playing. So about the judge thing, I was a long time ago an official judge for Magic the Gathering.
Oh, okay.
Back when they had TCI was it called, I think. So I was a level 1 judge back then.
Okay.
And did some judging on a bunch of smaller events there as well.
All right.
I was at the Swedish championship at Lincoln. I don't know, that was like 15 years ago or something.
So it felt kind of natural to going into a judge role in Star Wars Unlimited also.
Yeah. The reason basically for me is that I have an easy time learning rules, easier than most people. I pick it up well, and the information stays there. Yeah. So I'm pretty good at it, and I also enjoy that kind of work, answering questions and helping people, and just making the judgment calls. All those parts just fit me well as my personality.
That's good.
So that's why I went to the judging again. All right. Basically,
I mean, I am super appreciative of that, because I suck at learning rules, and I rather play. So I appreciate that people are taking on this role as a judge, because it makes. I mean, otherwise we couldn't play. So it's very nice.
I do want to encourage people to do that as well. We need more judges in Sweden as well. There are plenty of local people that judge in their little store, but I encourage you to become level 1 judges and maybe more, because it will get increasingly difficult to get official judges for the events if we don't.
But we will put the link in the show notes for where to go, and sign up as an apprentice first of all, and then going further.
You don't have to do that. Just to be clear, also, you don't have to be an apprentice to do level 1. You can just go straight to level 1. But both of them are of interest.
But we put a link in the show notes where to go for that. Sorry, Marcus. Magnus, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I just have to say everyone should be very cherish their judges and their tournament organizers, because without them we wouldn't have any tournaments to go to. So we're really happy that some of us who play the game are also willing to actually judge and organize the tournaments, because they're so needed in this TCGs, because without them it wouldn't be any tournaments.
True.
Yeah.
That's be nice to your judges and your tournament organizers. Yeah.
Give them candy and happy thoughts.
Yeah.
No, no bribery.
No, that's bribery, true. No. Just give them your like, yay. So no candy.
I mean, between events, I guess you can give them candy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, let's wrap this up. But as always, we end this podcast with since we always telling the odds, we will end with a question, and this time you, Magnus, have found something for both me and Pontus this time.
This question has nothing to do with the game, unfortunately. Today I didn't find anything good there, but so I have a question for both of you, and it's it's an interesting question, and I'm very interested in why it is like that, but we'll see. So the question is, what is the risk of dying on your own birthday compared to any other day of the year? So this is in percentage, and we can start with Marcus. You get to try to guess.
Oh wow! So
logically, of course, it would be 1 in 365, because
but I also think
365 days.
Yeah, but then I was thinking maybe that times 80, because you're 80 years, so you might die with the first year, the second year, the third year, and so on. So I don't know. 1 out of 365 times 80. I have no clue what that is. But let's say it's 0.001%.
I think it's much higher than that.
All right.
Because first of all, I do think your logic is wrong. I think that if you're dying during a year, it's basically random chance of which day you die on.
Yeah, it should be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do think that a lot of people don't like their birthdays because they feel like, I'm getting older. Mm-hmm. And that might cause people to do things they shouldn't do. And another thing is that some people really like their birthdays, and they go out and have fun on their birthdays. So I think that also increases the chance of dying specifically on your birthday. So I think it's around 1%.
Interesting.
Maybe a little lower than 1%.
I like how you calculated that. I think that's kind of why as well, that people maybe do daredevil stuff when on their birthdays. And also that when you get really old, maybe you don't have any family left and you get even more depressed on your birthday or something like that.
Yeah.
But you guys are actually way off, both of you. It's actually 14 to 18% more likely to die on your birthday than any other day.
Oh, wait. But maybe I misheard your question, but it says 14 to 18% more likely.
Yeah. That was the question.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, because what the answer I gave was the chance of dying specifically on odds.
Okay.
But we give you that.
But then But then my answer is still my answer. If I adjusted for that, would still be 200% or something. So,
but you are way closer than I was. So, and that's why you're a judge and I am not, because I was sure. All right,
okay.
that's
interesting.
Very interesting. But Pontus, thank you so much for taking your time and chat with us about this. Judging, as we have said before, it's very important to have this game being alive and to make us be able to play tournaments and so on. So I very much appreciate that, and thank you so much for taking your time being here.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Maybe you come back and talk about Hunter or Lando, so we will see.
For sure.
Yeah.
Whenever you need someone, I'm probably available because I think it's fun to just be on podcasts.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. All right, everyone. So as we said before, we will put the link in the show notes for where to go if you are interested in being a judge. And I guess, Pontus, that they could ask you in the Swedish Discord about stuff like that, and you are faucet in the Discord.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah. And also, we have a Discord, the podcast at Discord, and we have the show notes in the link. And we also have a YouTube channel where we upload the episodes, and those are also in the show notes. And you find me and Magnus in the Swedish and the international Discord as Dragonfly and Falloin. And once again, Pontus, thank you for joining us. And thank you all for listening. And we'll talk to you again in 1 week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.